Let me ask you something. Does this sound familiar? Have you been told you're too intense? Maybe too emotional? You're the one who feels things so deeply that a sunset can actually move you to tears. And for years, you've probably felt like this was some kind of personal flaw, right? Something you needed to fix or hide. Well, what if I told you it's not a flaw at all? What if it's actually your greatest strength, just in disguise?
So, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into what it means to be a highly sensitive person, or HSP. But look, this isn't about learning how to toughen up. No. Instead, we're going to learn how to build what I call your greenhouse, a custom environment where your sensitivity isn't just something you manage, but something that can actually thrive.
And to really get this, we have to go back, way back. Because evolutionary biology shows us that your sensitivity isn't some weird modern thing. It's a vital, ancient survival strategy. It's all about the fundamental roles we played in our earliest tribes. And what's so wild is that this isn't some rare fluke. If any of this is hitting home for you, you are likely part of the 20% of the population that carries a trait called sensory processing sensitivity. You are absolutely not alone. You're part of a significant minority that has a very specific purpose. Here's how to think about it. In any ancient tribe, the majority of people were the dandelions. You know them. They're resilient, fast-moving, the warriors who can eat anything and sleep anywhere. But here's the catch. A tribe of only dandelions would be in serious trouble. They'd miss the subtle signs of danger. And that's exactly why the tribe needed you, the orchid, the perceptive, cautious vanguard of awareness. Okay, here's another way to picture it. Your nervous system is basically wired to record the world in stunning, high-resolution 8K. Meanwhile, most of the world is chugging along in 720p. You don't just notice the big, loud noises, you perceive the subtle hum of the lights, the texture of your shirt against your skin, and that tiny hesitation in a friend's voice that tells you something's not quite right. Your radar is just always on. So you might be thinking, okay, if this trait is such a gift, why do I feel completely and utterly exhausted all the time? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental conflict between your biology and the world we live in now. See, your biology was perfectly designed for a quiet, high-stakes natural world. A world where a single snapped twig could mean the difference between life and death. And your system was built to process that one sound with incredible depth. But you don't live in a quiet forest, do you? You live in a world of open-plan offices, nonstop traffic, and a phone that pings you every 5 seconds. And this is the result. This constant barrage of sensory and emotional input creates something called systemic overload. Your brain doesn't really have a filter for all this high-velocity noise, so your system is basically running at maximum capacity all day just to get through a normal Tuesday. Of course you're tired. All right, so what's the path forward? What do we do about this? We start by completely rethinking what you're feeding your nervous system. It is time to design your very own sensory diet. Think about it exactly like food, right? If you eat junk food all day long, eventually your body's going to crash. Well, your nervous system is the same. It consumes sensory input. And so much of the modern world is sensory junk food. So the key is to start intentionally minimizing the stuff that depletes you and radically maximizing the stuff that nourishes you. First up, let's talk about minimizing that depletion. If you work in a chaotic place, I want you to completely reframe how you see tools like these. Noise-canceling headphones are not a luxury. They're not an antisocial gesture. They are essential personal protective equipment for your nervous system. Seriously. Wearing them isn't rude. It's necessary maintenance. You also need to find what environmental psychologists call a restorative niche. This is just a physical space, any space, that you can retreat to when you feel that fog of overstimulation starting to roll in. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be your car, a quiet stairwell, even a bathroom stall. The rule is super simple. When you feel overwhelmed, you do not push through it. You go to your niche for 5 minutes and let your system come back down to baseline. Now, for the part that most people miss, you can't just block out the bad stuff. You have to actively feed your senses with the good stuff. For a highly sensitive person, beauty is functional medicine. It's a signal to your nervous system that you are safe. This could be visual nutrition, like taking 30 seconds to really look at the complex patterns on a leaf. It could be tactile nutrition, the feeling of a soft sweater or a weighted blanket. Or auditory nutrition, like listening to brown noise or rain sounds. You have to schedule these things into your day. And what about the biggest source of sensory junk food in our lives? Yep, our phones. those little bright red notification bubbles, your brain literally treats them like tiny threats, creating a constant low-level anxiety loop. So try this, the gray protocol. Go into your accessibility settings right now and turn your screen to grayscale. It sounds so small, I know, but it fundamentally changes your brain chemistry. It strips away the dopamine reward and turns your phone back into what it should be, a simple tool.
Okay, so once we've started to manage the physical environment, we need to tackle the psychological layer. And for many of us, this is the biggest battle. How to stop being an emotional sponge for every single person around you. To protect our energy, we have to get this crucial distinction that neuroscience is making really clear: the difference between empathy and compassion. When you experience empathy, that's feeling with someone, your brain actually activates the same pathways as if you were in pain yourself. It's called the pain matrix. You literally absorb their suffering. But compassion, caring for someone, that's different. That lights up your brain's reward centers, releasing feel-good neurochemicals that motivate you to help without draining you dry. Let's use an analogy here. When your friend is struggling and you practice pure empathy, it's like seeing them drowning and immediately jumping into the water with them. Well, what happens now? Now you're both drowning, you're completely overwhelmed, and you're no help to anybody.
Compassion, on the other hand, is standing firmly on the shore where you are safe and resourced and throwing them a rope. You can see their pain, you can care for them deeply, but you don't take it on as your own. This creates a critical psychological boundary that allows you to actually be useful.
Now, to make that shift, you need a practical tool. Because you feel others' disappointment so intensely, saying no can feel physically painful. So this is your new shield, the pause protocol. From this day forward, your default answer to any request is this phrase: "Let me check my capacity and get back to you." That's it. This simple sentence buys you the time your high-processing brain needs to override that impulse to people please and ask yourself one question: is this good for my greenhouse? So let's pull all these pieces together. The modern world was not built for you. It's loud, it's fast, it's aggressive. But that does not mean you don't belong here. It just means you cannot live your life on autopilot. You have to become the deliberate, conscious architect of your world. And here, right here, is the ultimate reward for doing all this work. Psychologists call it Vantage Sensitivity, and what it means is that while you might suffer more in chaotic environments, in the right environment, in your greenhouse, you don't just do well, you actually outperform everyone else. You bloom with a level of creativity, depth, and insight that the world is absolutely desperate for. And that's really the big takeaway from all this. Building your greenhouse, it's not about retreating from the world or hiding away. It is about strategically resourcing yourself so that you have the energy and the resilience to show up fully with all of that beautiful 8K perception you have. So the question isn't how to be less sensitive. The real question is, how will you architect a world that allows your sensitivity to finally become your superpower?